They laughed at me in front of the whole town. The sheriff called me a weak omega, not fit to guard a chicken coop, let alone stand beside him. I shouted back, of course, bragged, stuttered, tripped on the saloon step, which only made the laughter worse. But that night, under the blood moon, pain tore through me, bones broke, claws burst, and the desert heard my howl. They mocked me as weak, but I became the wolf every gunslinger feared. Want to see how this legend unfolds? Hit that subscribe, smash the like, and drop your comments. Your support keeps the story alive. The sun blazed over Dry Creek, heat shimmering off the dusty street like a furnace. Folks crowded the saloon porch, some clutching whiskey glasses, others fanning themselves with hats. And right in the middle, the sheriff leaned on the railing like he owned the desert itself. His star badge caught the light, blinding me for a second. Then he spoke, voice loud enough to silence the piano inside. "This boy here," he said, pointing straight at me, "ain't worth a bullet." The laughter rolled like thunder. Men slapped their knees, women covered their mouths with fans, and even the horses tied at the post snorted as if they got the joke. "He's a weak omega," the sheriff went on. "Can't fight, can't shoot, can't even keep his mouth shut. And he thinks he's fit to stand beside me? Don't make me laugh." And laugh they did. The whole town. Every single soul. I should have left. I knew it. My pride screamed louder than my sense. So instead, I stepped forward, dust puffing around my boots. "I'll have you know," I shouted, voice cracking, "I'm special. Y'all don't know power when it's staring you in the face." The laughter doubled. The piano man struck a mocking note. I tried to keep going. "One day you'll regret." But I stammered, tripped over the saloon step, and sprawled face first in the dirt. That was it. The crowd roared so loud the sheriff had to tip his hat just to hide his smirk. I scrambled up, brushing dirt from my shirt, cheeks burning hotter than the desert sun. My fists clenched, my voice shook. "Laugh while you can," I barked, though it sounded more like a wheeze. "The blood moon's comin', and when it does, you'll see who's weak." Nobody took me seriously. Nobody ever did. They called me pathetic, a fool, an omega without worth. But deep down, something in me stirred, something that would not stay buried. As I stormed out of town, the sheriff's laughter echoing behind me, the desert wind carried a strange whisper, low, haunting, almost a growl, the kind of sound that makes even coyotes stop howling. I froze, heart pounding. What was that? The blood moon wasn't far, and the night was already listening. I trudged through the sand, replaying the laughter in my head. Every cackle, every smirk, every word of the sheriff's mockery clung to me like burrs on a saddle blanket. And instead of letting it humble me, I did what I always do. I talked. Out loud. To myself. To the desert. To whoever would listen. "They'll see," I muttered, then shouted. "They'll all see. When the blood moon rises, they'll beg me to protect them. Beg me." My voice cracked again, but no one was around to laugh. Or so I thought. The next morning, back in town, I made sure everyone heard about my so-called destiny. I cornered old Mrs. Tully at the well, waving my arms. "Mark my words, ma'am. One day I'll be stronger than the sheriff. You'll see me save this whole town." She rolled her eyes and walked off before I finished. "At the blacksmith's forge," I declared, "soon as that moon turns red, I'll show you all power like you've never seen." Sparks flew, but not from admiration. The blacksmith grunted, shooing me away. Even the saloon keeper slammed the door in my face after I tried to rally a crowd with my boasting. The truth? I was annoying. I knew it. I could see it in their tired eyes, the way they avoided me like a plague. But my pride kept pushing words out of my mouth, even as my heart sank deeper into loneliness. That night, sitting on the edge of town, I let the mask slip. My voice wavered. No audience this time. Maybe they're right. Maybe I am weak. Maybe the sheriff was right to laugh. My fists trembled. But if the blood moon gives me a chance, Just one chance. I'll never let them laugh again. I looked up and there it was. Faint, distant, but growing larger each night. The moon, already tinged with crimson. My chest tightened. Destiny, or doom, was on its way. Then I heard it again. That low animal growl carried on the wind. This time it wasn't just a whisper. It was closer, behind me. I spun around, heart hammering, and saw two glowing eyes watching from the desert shadows. The blood moon was coming. But something else had come first. The eyes blinked once, then vanished. I spun in circles, dust rising beneath my boots, but the night was still. Maybe it was a coyote. Maybe I was seeing things. Either way, I wasn't going to admit I was scared. I stomped back into town at sunrise, determined to reclaim a little dignity. Bad idea. I made the mistake of walking into the saloon, loud as ever. "Folks," I declared, climbing onto a chair, "the blood moon's almost here, and when it rises I'll be the strongest man in Dry Creek. Stronger than the sheriff, stronger than any outlaw." They groaned. A drunk threw a peanut at my head. The bartender snapped, "Out. I've had enough of your jawing. Out before I throw you myself." Banished. From the saloon. Again. I stormed outside, muttering curses at the sheriff, at the town, at anyone who ever doubted me. My voice carried down the dusty street, bouncing off the shuttered windows. "Fine. If you don't believe me, I don't need you. I'll wander the desert alone and let destiny find me there." So I did. The desert swallowed me whole. Hours passed. My throat dried. My lips cracked. I kept muttering to myself, anything to drown out the silence. They'll regret it. They'll cry when I come back in glory. Maybe I'll even refuse to save them. No, I'm too noble for that. I'll save them anyway, and then they'll thank me. But as the sun set, the desert answered. The coyotes howled long and sharp. Not the playful yips I'd heard before, but something guttural, stretched too far, like their throats carried more than an animal's voice. The sound prickled down my spine. The moon rose, swollen and faintly red, staining the horizon. My muttering grew quieter. Even I couldn't talk over the desert's eerie chorus. The air grew heavy, still, waiting. I staggered onto a ridge, the whole desert stretched below, glowing in ghostly silver. My heart thudded. The coyotes' howls echoed again, closer this time. And for the first time, I wondered if I'd been right all along. Maybe destiny really was following me. Then I saw it. Not glowing eyes this time, but a shadow moving across the sand. Too large for a man, too swift for a horse. It darted between the rocks, circling me. My throat went dry. The blood moon hadn't even risen in full, and already the desert was hunting me. The desert was silent except for my rambling. My words rattled out, half boast, half plea. "I'm special, right? I've been saying it all along. So why not show them now? Why all the suspense?" The blood moon climbed higher, red and swollen, bleeding light across the sand. That's when the pain hit. It started in my chest, sharp, twisting, like hot iron being driven between my ribs. I doubled over, clutching myself. "Oh, great," I wheezed. "Stomachache of destiny. Wonderful." But the pain didn't stop. It spread, searing through every bone. My legs buckled, slamming me into the sand. I screamed. Not a proud, heroic scream. A high, cracking shriek that tore my throat raw. My arms bent backward, bones snapping and stretching. Fingers split into claws, nails shredding away. My skin burned like it was peeling off in strips, fur forcing its way out in its place. I clawed at the dirt, eyes watering, sobbing between curses and bragging. I told them I was different. My jaw cracked, lengthened, teeth stabbing down sharp and heavy. Blood filled my mouth, metallic and hot. The shadow that had been circling me froze in place. It wasn't hunting anymore. It was watching. Watching as I screamed and writhed and tore the desert apart with my change. My spine stretched, ribs snapping into a new cage, my voice breaking into a howl I didn't recognize. The sand flew beneath me as my legs lengthened, muscles swelling, reshaping. By the time the blood moon reached its peak, I was no longer crawling. I was standing, tall, furred, monstrous. My breath steamed in the night, hot and animal, and for the first time I felt it. Power. Raw, savage, terrifying. My ears twitched at the smallest desert sound. My nose flared with scents I'd never known. The musk of coyotes, the iron tang of distant blood, the sweat of prey hiding in the rocks. I looked at my claws gleaming under the red moonlight, and a laugh ripped from my throat. Not human, not wolf, something caught in between. Terrified but awed, broken but reborn. Then the shadow moved again. Not away, not circling. Closer. Slowly, deliberately, it stepped into the blood moon's glow. And I realized I wasn't the only monster in the desert that night. The bandit didn't run at first. He stood there trembling, sweat dripping down his brow. My new senses devoured every detail. The sour stench of fear in his pores, the quick thump of his rabbit-fast heartbeat, the quiver in his knees before he bolted. And when he bolted, I chased. My body moved faster than thought. Sand tore beneath my claws as I bounded after him, muscles rippling with a strength I'd never imagined. He tripped, scrambled, and screamed as I loomed over him, my shadow blotting out the moon. He screamed again, dropped his weapon, and sprinted into the night, howling for his partners. They came, 3 more bandits riding hard across the ridge, rifles raised. But the moment their eyes caught my shape in the crimson moonlight, everything changed. Horses reared, men cursed, and shots rang out wildly into the air. None dared aim at me. None dared stand. They scattered like dry leaves in the wind. Some fled into the rocks. Others spurred their horses into the black desert. Their fear clung to me like perfume, and I drank it in. I should have been humbled, terrified at what I'd become. But no. I laughed, a deep, guttural laugh that shook the night. Ha! Did you see that? I roared, half-human words twisting through wolf teeth. One howl, one glare, and they ran like scared pups. I strutted across the sand, claws carving trenches, chest puffed out. I told them I was special. Didn't I say it? Didn't I warn them? My voice boomed into the night, as though the sheriff himself could hear me across town. I threw back my head and howled again, the sound rolling over the desert. Coyotes fell silent. Even the wind stilled. Sheriff, I growled. You'll eat dust when you see me next. No more weak Omega. No more mockery. I'm the nightmare your gunslingers fear. The bandits who hadn't fled far enough scrambled further, whispering legends already. I caught snippets with my sharpened hearing. The wolf, a demon wolf. Oh, I loved it. Every word. Every ounce of fear I inspired. It fed me more than food or drink ever could. But deep down, somewhere under the fur and claws, a thin thread of doubt tugged at me. If I was so powerful, why did I still feel the sting of their laughter echoing in my head? The answer came too soon. From the ridge beyond, a rifle shot cracked. Not wild, not panicked. Steady. The bullet tore through the air, whistling past my ear, close enough to singe fur. The sheriff wasn't laughing anymore. He was hunting. I didn't stay to test his aim. I bounded into the night, my new body carrying me further than any horse could run. Behind me, the echo of that single bullet rattled my bones. But the strangest thing, it didn't scare me. No, it thrilled me. The sheriff finally saw me as worth a shot. By the next morning, whispers stirred across Dry Creek. Men muttered in hushed voices about a wolf prowling the desert, a beast taller than 2 men, eyes glowing like embers. Women swore they'd heard howls so deep the walls shook. Bandits who survived babbled nonsense about a demon with human words. My legend was born, and oh, did I love it. But patience was never my strong suit. Instead of letting the mystery build, I couldn't resist fanning the flames. I snuck into town at dusk, still cloaked in the thrill of my newfound power. My claws had receded, for now, leaving me human-shaped again, though every nerve still buzzed with energy. At the well, I dropped a claw mark across the wood deep enough to splinter the bucket rope. Oops, I muttered loudly, loud enough for two gossiping women nearby to hear. Must have slipped. These claws of mine are dangerous. At the blacksmith's forge, I leaned on his counter, smirking. Strange times, huh? Heard folks talking about a beast out there. Big, scary thing. Must have been awful for them. Imagine facing something like that and living to tell the tale. I flexed my hand just enough for the faint scratch marks to show. He grunted, unimpressed, but I strutted out like I'd dropped the grandest mystery of the century. By the time I reached the saloon, I couldn't help myself. Standing in the doorway, I declared, "Heard y'all whispering about the monster. Well, some say it ain't a monster at all. Some say it's a man touched by destiny." The room groaned. A drunk spat into his glass. One man muttered, "Lord save us, it's him again." I tried to reel it back, lowering my voice dramatically. A man who walks like us by day, but when the moon rises he howls. I grinned, expecting gasps. Instead, the piano man hit a sour note just to mock me again. My mysterious aura? Shattered. My bragging? Unstoppable. Still, I knew the truth. The more I shouted, the faster the story spread. And somewhere behind the saloon doors, I swore I heard the sheriff's voice, quiet, calculating. He wasn't mocking anymore. He was listening. That night, as I slunk out of town, a shadow detached itself from the alley wall. A figure cloaked in black whispered just loud enough for my ears to catch. "You talk too much, pup. If you want to survive the sheriff, meet me where the desert swallows the sun." And before I could reply, they were gone. By dawn, word had already spread. Dry Creek wasn't just gossiping now. The entire desert had caught fire with my legend. They said a monstrous wolf prowled under the blood moon. They said the sheriff's bullet couldn't touch it. They said I carved marks into wood with claws that weren't there in daylight. Stories drew attention. Attention drew trouble. The first to arrive was a wiry gunslinger with a scar splitting his lip. He cornered me outside the blacksmith's shop, revolvers twirling in his hands like restless snakes. "You the beast folks whisper about?" he sneered. I smirked, leaning against the wall. "Beast? No. Legend? Absolutely." He drew faster than blinking, barrel pressing to my temple. My heart stuttered. Then the beast inside me grinned. I let the wolf's eyes flare ember red for just a second. His hands trembled. He holstered with a curse and stalked off. I laughed so loud half the street turned to stare. "Did you see that?" One glare and the man quivered like a child. "I told you all, I'm untouchable." Not everyone found it amusing. By the next sunset, more came. Bounty hunters, drifters, even a bandit crew who thought I'd make a fine prize. They gathered at the saloon, watching me like a caged animal, whispering wagers about who'd try me first. I strutted in, shoulders squared, every eye on me. Instead of keeping quiet, like any smart man would, I spread my arms wide. Well, 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 and looks like the desert finally woke up to the name on everyone's lips. Me. The place went silent. Then laughter roared. Tankards slammed, boots stomped. One outlaw howled louder than the piano. "You think you're fearsome?" One woman spat, her hand never leaving the hilt of her knife. "You're just a pup barking too loud." I should have ignored it. Instead, I stood on a table. Barking? No, darlin'. I howl. And when I howl, the sheriff himself quakes in his boots. That did it. Chairs scraped. Guns were loosened in holsters. The room pulsed with danger. My so-called legend had turned the wolves of the desert onto me. And yet, I grinned wider. Let them test me. Let them bleed. The wolf inside me hungered. Just as the first outlaw drew steel, the saloon doors creaked open. A tall figure stepped in, the crowd parting like cattle before a storm. Spurs jingled. A hand hovered above an iron revolver polished bright as moonlight. His voice cut through the tension. "I'll be the first. Let's see if the pup bites as hard as he brags." The crowd roared. My pulse thundered. And my legend, whether it rose or died, was about to be tested in front of them all. I flashed my teeth and raised my hands like I was welcoming the duel. "Finally," I said, loud enough for the crowd to hear, "someone brave enough to test fate." Truth was, my stomach was crawling with snakes. The wolf in me snarled for blood, but my human side wanted to run. The gunslinger drew first, steel flashing in the lamplight. I didn't think, I shifted. My nails split into claws, my teeth sharpened mid-snarl, my eyes burned bright as coals. His bullet whizzed past my cheek, grazing skin, but before he could fire again, I lunged. The table shattered under us, wood splinters flying. He screamed, dropping his gun as my claws pinned him. Gasps filled the saloon. For a heartbeat, they saw it. The beast I'd been bragging about. I leaned down, growling into his ear. "Still think I'm just bark?" The man fainted dead away. I stood, chest heaving, claws dripping red from the splinters. The room went silent, then erupted in chaos. Some outlaws cheered, others fled, but every eye was wide with fear. By morning, the sheriff heard everything. And unlike the townsfolk, he wasn't amused. That night, he didn't come himself. He sent hunters, real killers, not drunken drifters. Men who moved like shadows, rifles slung across their backs, knives strapped to their thighs. I caught their scent before I saw them, metallic and cold, like steel dipped in blood. They ambushed me in the desert, 3 against 1. Bullets snapped through the dark. A knife slashed across my arm, burning silver against my skin. Pain screamed through me, but the wolf answered louder. I roared, tearing through the sandstorm of gunfire, my body half shifting, half breaking under the moonlight. When the dust settled, the killers lay scattered, alive, but broken. My chest heaved, my wounds burned, but I was still standing. Barely. A sane man would have hidden, licked his wounds, disappeared into the desert. But me? I limped back toward town, dragging my claws across rocks, leaving deep gouges in fence posts, even howling loud enough to rattle windows. "Still alive," I shouted into the night. "The sheriff can't kill me." Every mark I left was proof. Every howl was a message. I wanted the sheriff to know the legend of the wolf wasn't finished. But the desert wind carried back a reply I hadn't expected. From the ridges above town, a voice called out. Calm, cold, and terrifyingly close. "Good. Stay alive, pup. Makes it more fun when I take you down myself." The sheriff was coming, and this time, he wasn't sending killers. He was bringing the hunt straight to me. By the next morning, I wasn't alone. They came from the far edges of the desert, ragged figures with tired eyes, carrying the same scent I knew too well. Omegas. Some were boys barely past childhood, others seasoned drifters who had long ago been cast aside by alphas. Word of the wolf who defied the sheriff had reached them, and now they sought me out, their supposed savior. "Teach us," one said, bowing his head. "If you can stand against killers, maybe we can learn to stand too." I looked at them, their hopeful faces, their trembling hands. For a moment, I felt something stir, something almost noble. Then my grin split wide. "Of course you came to me. Who else? Didn't you hear? I made the sheriff quake in his boots with a single howl." They nodded nervously, but I didn't stop. "First lesson," I announced, pacing dramatically. "Walk tall like me. When people see me stride into a saloon, they know power's in the room. Try it. Shoulders back, chin high." An older Omega tried, stiff as a wooden board. I burst out laughing. "Not like that. You look like a scarecrow with stomach cramps." The group chuckled at his expense, but their smiles faded when I kept piling insults. I showed off claw marks on my arm like trophies. I bragged about the bandits who ran screaming. I even reenacted the sheriff's hunters falling at my feet, adding a few extra flourishes. Every tale grew taller, every boast louder. One by one, their hopeful eyes dimmed. Some muttered excuses and left, their footsteps dragging into the sand. By dusk, only one remained, a wiry Omega with sharp, steady eyes. "You're driving them away," he said quietly. I scoffed, tossing a rock into the fire. If they can't handle greatness, they don't deserve it. He didn't flinch. Or maybe they need someone who listens, not just someone who howls at his own reflection. That stung more than I'd admit. I rolled my eyes, muttering, "Whatever. You're still here, aren't you?" He nodded. "Because I see something in you. Beneath all that noise, you don't want to be alone." For a moment, the fire crackled between us, shadows dancing across my still healing scars. His words gnawed at me, but I brushed them off with another smirk. "Then stick close. When the sheriff comes, you'll witness the legend firsthand." The boy leaned forward, his voice low, almost reverent. "You don't get it. The sheriff isn't coming to witness you. He's coming to bury you. And I think he's already closer than you think." Before I could laugh it off, the night wind shifted. Hoofbeats. Slow, heavy, drawing nearer. The hoofbeats stopped. Silence pressed down like a shroud. Then, in the distance, a whistle split the night. Sharp, commanding. Not the sheriff's voice, but his message. When morning came, it carried across town like wildfire. The sheriff had called me out. Not in the shadows. Not in whispers. He wanted a public showdown, under the sun where no wolf could hide. I should have been shaken. Instead, I stomped into Dry Creek Square at dawn and shouted for the world to hear. 3 seconds flat. That's all it'll take for me to put the sheriff down. The crowd gasped, then chuckled nervously. Even some Omegas who had followed me groaned, muttering into their hands. My new ally, the only one who hadn't left, glared like he wanted to strangle me. "You're taunting the man who's never lost a duel," he hissed. I shrugged, strutting like a king. "Never lost, because he's never fought me. They'll sing about this day." But when night fell and I was finally alone, the truth clawed through the cracks in my bravado. I stood by the campfire, staring at my reflection in the water trough. My eyes glowed faintly, ember red. My hands trembled. Not from fear of the sheriff's bullet, but from fear of myself. The wolf inside me was growing stronger, wilder. Each shift came faster, ripping through my body with fire and frenzy. What if I lost control in front of everyone? What if I didn't just beat the sheriff? What if I tore through the entire town? The thought sickened me. For the first time, I wanted silence. No laughter, no applause, no boasting. Just silence. But the silence never lasted. By morning, I was back on the street, puffing my chest, declaring to anyone who'd listen, 3 seconds flat, that's all it'll take. The townsfolk sneered. Even some who had once admired me now muttered, "He's all bark." But the damage was done. The square was already being cleared. Dust swept away, the sheriff's men marking out a dueling circle in the dirt. There was no escape. My words had chained me to the coming storm. As the sun began to sink, painting the sky in blood-red streaks, I saw him, the sheriff. Broad-shouldered, hat low, spurs chiming with every step. His hand rested on his revolver, polished bright as lightning. His eyes found me across the circle, and for the first time, there was no mocking laughter, only cold certainty. He tipped his hat. 3 seconds, huh? Then I'll make the first one count. The crowd hushed. My mouth went dry, and the wolf inside me pressed against my skin, aching to burst free. The town square rang with silence. Even the saloon's piano man had stopped playing. Every eye was on us. The sheriff, calm as stone, and me, pacing like a caged lion, tossing quips into the air I wasn't sure I could back up. "Better hope your boots are quick," I called. "Wouldn't want you tripping before I end this." The crowd laughed nervously, but the sheriff didn't flinch. His gaze was ice. His hand hovered over his revolver. The clock tower bell tolled once, twice. My throat tightened. The sheriff's hand twitched. Steel flashed. He fired first. The bullet grazed my arm, hot and sharp, sending me stumbling. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I staggered, then tripped over my own heel, landing flat on my back in the dust. The townsfolk burst into laughter. Some legend, someone jeered. 3 seconds flat, down he goes. Rage burned hotter than the bullet wound. I scrambled up, shouting, "That was a warm-up. You'll see the real show now." But the sheriff already had his gun trained, steady and unshaking. The blood moon rose higher. And that's when it happened. The fire lit my veins again, searing through muscle and bone. My skin split, claws tore through flesh, my spine cracked as the wolf surged free. I screamed, half in agony, half in ecstasy, my body shredding into something bigger, darker, hungrier. The sheriff fired again. The bullet tore into my side, but I barely felt it. I lunged faster than sight, ripping through the dust. My claws carved deep furrows in the dirt as I landed in front of him. His eyes widened, just a flicker, but enough. The crowd screamed as I towered over him, fur bristling, eyes burning like coals. I was no longer the fool they mocked. I was the nightmare every gunslinger whispered about. The sheriff drew again, but I swiped, shattering his revolver to pieces. The fragments clattered across the square. Gasps, cries. The crowd stumbled back, some dropping to their knees. For the first time, fear filled their eyes. Not laughter, not mockery. Fear. I howled at the blood moon, the sound splitting the night, rattling the town's windows. Even the sheriff flinched, his jaw tightening. And for one glorious moment, I felt invincible. Then, as the echo of my howl faded, the sheriff's lips curved into a smile. Not mocking, not afraid, just steady. He pulled a second revolver from beneath his coat, this one silver, gleaming in the moonlight. The crowd gasped. My eyes locked on it, every instinct screaming danger. The sheriff's voice was calm, deadly. "Now, let's see if the wolf can bleed." The sheriff fired. The silver bullet tore through the air, whistling like a banshee. I twisted, barely dodging, but it seared across my shoulder, burning hotter than fire. I roared, staggering, fur singeing where the silver touched. The crowd gasped, clutching each other. The sheriff cocked the revolver again, calm as if we weren't in the middle of hell itself. I lunged, claws out, but he was fast, faster than any human had a right to be. He rolled, fired again. The bullet buried itself in my thigh. Pain shrieked up my leg, forcing me to stumble. For a heartbeat, fear drowned the wolf's fury. But then I saw it, flickers of doubt in the sheriff's eyes, sweat beading at his temple, his hand shaking just enough for me to smell the strain. He wasn't fighting a man anymore. He was fighting the beast he thought he could control. The wolf surged. I gave in. With a howl that rattled the saloon windows, I hurled myself forward, silver burning in my flesh, rage blotting out the pain. The sheriff fired one last shot, but I swatted the revolver aside, claws raking sparks across steel. My jaws snapped inches from his throat. His hat tumbled into the dust. His revolver clattered away. For the first time, the unshakable sheriff staggered back, weaponless, wide-eyed. The crowd froze. Silence fell. And then, he dropped to one knee, chest heaving, gaze locked on me. Not mockery, not laughter, just grim defeat. I straightened, blood dripping from my wounds, fur bristling under the blood moon. The sheriff, the man who mocked me before the whole town, had finally bowed. Whispers spread like wildfire. The wolf beat him. The sheriff couldn't do it. He's real. The monster's real. For one perfect heartbeat, I was a legend. And then I opened my mouth. 3 seconds? Ha! I told you all. Did I say it or didn't I? Who's laughing now, huh? I strutted around the square, claws raised like a champion. The sheriff, oh, the mighty sheriff, couldn't handle me. Omega, they called me. Weak? Look at me now. Destiny chose me. The blood moon anointed me. I am unstoppable. The crowd, still trembling in awe, began shifting uncomfortably. Some rolled their eyes, others muttered. My lone Omega ally covered his face with his hands, groaning. And yet, not one soul dared speak against me. Not after what they'd seen. Not after I'd left the sheriff broken in the dust. Reluctant or not, I was no longer the fool they mocked. I was the wolf no one dared cross. But as the crowd dispersed, whispers of awe giving way to unease, I caught sight of a figure at the edge of the square, cloaked, watching. Their eyes glowed faintly, not human. The sheriff had fallen, but something worse had just taken notice of me.